Hello, everyone. Good morning. Every time you hesitate, your brain thinks it's protecting you from embarrassment, from failure, from rejection. But what it's really doing is keeping you stuck in the exact same place year after year. Most people believe they're stuck because something outside of them isn't working. They blame timing, money, other people, their past, or their circumstances. But if you look closely, what's really happening isn't that you're stuck, it's that you're hesitating. And hesitation feels harmless, even responsible, because it looks like thinking, planning, or waiting for clarity. But hesitation is a quiet decision to stay exactly where you are. Every time you pause instead of acting, your brain learns a dangerous lesson. Avoidance works. It tells you that backing away keeps you safe, comfortable, and accepted. And the brain loves comfort. It doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about predictability. So the more you hesitate, the stronger that habit becomes. Days turn into months. Months turn into years. And one day you wake up wondering how your life ended up so far from what you imagined. Here's the hard truth. Clarity doesn't come from waiting. It comes from movement. You don't figure things out by standing still and thinking harder. You figure things out by doing something, anything, and learning from the result. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates direction. Hesitation creates nothing. Think about the moments you've replayed in your head, the message you didn't send, the opportunity you didn't take, the idea you kept to yourself. In those moments, it wasn't a lack of ability that stopped you. It was the pause, that split second where doubt rushed in and said, what if this doesn't work? Or what if they judge me? And instead of moving forward, you step back. Hesitation often disguises itself as responsibility. You tell yourself you're being realistic. You say you're waiting for the right time, more information, or a better version of yourself. But the right time rarely arrives, and the better version of you is built by action, not preparation. Waiting doesn't make you stronger. It makes fear louder. What makes hesitation so dangerous is that it's invisible. No one calls you out for it. There's no dramatic failure. There's no clear moment where everything falls apart. Life just quietly shrinks. You settle for less conversation, less ambition, less expression. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to expect less from yourself. But here's the shift that changes everything. The moment you move, hesitation loses its power. Action interrupts fear. Even the smallest step forward breaks the pattern. Sending the email, asking the question, starting before you feel ready. Those small moves teach your brain a new lesson. I can handle this. You don't need a big leap. You need a decision. A decision to stop pausing every time discomfort shows up. Growth will always feel unfamiliar at first. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something new. Your life doesn't change because you waited longer or thought harder. It changes because you chose movement over hesitation. And once you understand that you were never stuck, just waiting, you realize something powerful. You can start moving at any moment. Expand 200 to 600 words. Most people believe confidence is something you either have or you don't. They look at confident people and assume they were born that way. Fearless, self-assured, naturally bold. But that belief is exactly what keeps you stuck. Confidence isn't a personality trait. It's a byproduct. And the mistake most people make is waiting to feel confident before they take action. Here's the reality. Confidence is built after you act, not before. If confidence came first, everyone would be living the life they want. But it doesn't work that way. The brain is designed to be cautious. When you step into something unfamiliar, your nervous system responds with doubt, hesitation, and fear. That response doesn't mean you're incapable. It means you're human. When you wait to feel confident, you're asking your brain to give you certainty without evidence. And the brain doesn't work like that. It needs proof. It needs experience. It needs repetition. Confidence grows when you do something, survive it, and realize you're still okay. That realization becomes evidence, and evidence builds belief. Think about anything you're good at now. You weren't confident the first time you tried it. You were awkward, unsure, probably uncomfortable, but you kept showing up. Each attempt taught you something. Each experience reduced the fear just a little. And eventually, what once scared you became familiar. That's how confidence is formed. The problem is that most people quit before that. Process can work. They take one shaky step, feel uncomfortable, and assume that discomfort means they're not ready. But discomfort is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that you're learning. Growth always feels unstable at first because you're building new skills and new neural pathways. Waiting for confidence keeps you trapped in a loop. You avoid action because you don't feel confident. And because you avoid action, you never gain the experiences that create confidence. The only way out of that loop is through action. Imperfect, messy, uncomfortable action. You don't need to feel brave to be brave. You need to move while your hands are shaking. You need to speak even when your voice trembles. Courage is not calmness. It's willingness. Willingness to try even when you're unsure of the outcome. Every time you take action despite fear, you send yourself a powerful message. I can handle this. That message builds self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of real confidence. Not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet belief that no matter what happens, you'll figure it out. Stop waiting to feel ready. Readiness is built in motion. Start before you feel prepared. Learn as you go. Adjust along the way. Confidence will catch up. It always does. The people you admire didn't wait for confidence. They acted first, failed forward, and grew into the person you now see. You don't become confident and then take action. You take action and confidence follows. Expand 300 to 600 words. Fear has a bad reputation. We talk about it as if it's something to eliminate, overcome, or silence. But fear isn't your enemy. It's a signal. And the biggest mistake you can make is treating fear like a stop sign instead of understanding what it's actually trying to tell you. Your brain's primary job is to keep you safe, not fulfilled. It doesn't know the difference between real danger and emotional discomfort. So when you step towards something unfamiliar, speaking up, starting something new, putting yourself out there, your brain reacts the same way it would if you were in physical danger. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral, doubt shows up loudly. That doesn't mean something bad is about to happen. It means you're leaving your comfort zone. Most people misinterpret that reaction. They feel fear and assume it's a warning to stop. They say, this doesn't feel right, when what they really mean is, this feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliarity triggers fear. But growth has never lived inside what's familiar. Fear shows up most strongly around the things that matter to you. You don't feel afraid about things you don't care about. You don't fear being judged for goals that don't matter. Fear appears when there's meaning on the line, when your identity, dreams, or values are involved. That's why fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal pointing to something important. The problem isn't fear itself. The problem is how quickly we obey it. We feel fear and immediately back away, assuming relief equals safety. But relief is temporary. The fear doesn't disappear. It just returns the next time the opportunity shows up, usually stronger than before. When you start seeing fear as information instead of instruction, everything changes. Fear tells you, this is new. It tells you you're stretching. It tells you, pay attention. What it doesn't tell you is that can't handle it. That part is a story your mind creates. The key is learning to move with fear instead of waiting for it to leave. Fear doesn't vanish before action. It quiets after action. The moment you take a step forward, your nervous system begins to regulate. Your brain realizes you're not in danger. And suddenly what felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Think about the times you pushed through fear anyway, the conversation you dreaded but had, the risk you took even though you were scared. Once it was over, you didn't regret acting. You felt relieved, empowered, proud. That's because action rewires your relationship with fear. It teaches your brain that discomfort is survivable. Fear only has power when it controls your behavior. The second you act, it loses its authority. You don't need to feel calm to move forward. You need to feel willing. If you wait for fear to disappear, you will wait forever. Fear is part of growth. It's the price of admission to a bigger life. The goal isn't to eliminate fear. It's to stop letting it decide. When fear shows up, don't ask, how do I make this go away? Ask, what is this pointing me toward? Because on the other side of fear is almost always the next version of you. Expand 400 to 600 words. Most people say they're afraid of failing, but that's not the real fear. Failure happens in private all the time. You fail quietly, learn, and move on. What actually scares people is being seen while they're trying, being visible before they're good, confident, or successful. It's the fear of judgment, criticism, and looking foolish that keeps so many people frozen. From a young age, we're taught to avoid embarrassment. We learn that approval equals safety. So we become experts at hiding the parts of ourselves that aren't polished yet. We wait until we have results before we show up. We wait until we're perfect before we speak. But that waiting comes at a cost. No one becomes great in private forever. Growth requires visibility. Being seen trying feels vulnerable because it exposes you to opinions you can't control. Someone might misunderstand you. Someone might criticize you. Someone might laugh. And the brain treats those possibilities as threats, even though they can't actually harm you. So it convinces you to stay quiet, stay small, and stay hidden. Here's the truth most people avoid. Every confident, skilled, successful person you admire was once inexperienced in public. They posted when no one cared. They spoke when their voice shook. They failed where others could see it. You just didn't witness that phase because you met them after they kept going. The fear of judgment is powerful because it attacks your sense of belonging. Humans are wired to seek acceptance. But belonging doesn't come from blending in. It comes from showing up as you are. When you hide, you may avoid criticism, but you also avoid connection, growth, and opportunity. Judgment is unavoidable. No matter what you do, someone will have an opinion. If you try, you'll be judged. If you don't try, you'll be judged. The difference is that one path leads somewhere and the other leads to regret. When you stop trying to manage how others see you, you reclaim your energy. You realize that other people's opinions are a reflection of their perspective, not your potential. And most of the time, people aren't judging you hardly as much as you think. They're focused on themselves. Visibility isn't about being loud or perfect. It's about being honest. It's about allowing yourself to be a beginner. It's about accepting that mastery comes after exposure, not before it. The moment you let yourself be seen trying, you give yourself permission to grow. You stop waiting for validation and start building self-respect. And self-respect is far more powerful than approval. You don't need everyone to like you. You need to like the person you become when you choose courage over comfort. Being seen is uncomfortable, but staying invisible is far more limiting. The world doesn't need a perfected version of you someday. It needs the real version of you showing up now. Learning, adjusting, and growing in public. Expand 500 to 600 words. Overthinking is one of the most socially acceptable ways to avoid action. It looks responsible. It sounds intelligent. You tell yourself you're being careful, strategic, or analytical. But most of the time, overthinking isn't preparation. It's fear in disguise. The mind loves certainty. When you face a decision that could change something, your thoughts begin to spin. You replay conversations that haven't happened yet. You imagine outcomes you can't control. You weigh every possible risk until the simplest choice feels overwhelming. And in the end, you do nothing. Not because you chose to, but because you exhausted yourself mentally. Overthinking gives you the illusion of progress without requiring courage. You feel busy in your head, but nothing changes in your life. The more you think, the more reasons you find to wait. That's because the brain is wired to search for problems, not possibilities. If you keep asking, what could go wrong? Your mind will happily give you 100 answers. The problem is that clarity does not come from thinking alone. It comes from interaction with reality. You don't learn what works by imagining it. You learn by trying, adjusting, and trying again. Action reveals information that thinking never can. When you overthink, you delay decisions in hopes of eliminating uncertainty. But uncertainty is part of every meaningful choice. There is no perfect plan. There is no guaranteed outcome. Waiting for total certainty is a decision to stay exactly where you are. Overthinking often comes from a desire to avoid regret. You don't want to make the wrong choice, but not choosing is still a choice, and it carries its own regret. The pain of action is temporary. The pain of inaction lingers. Here's what breaks the cycle: making small, fast decisions. You don't need to decide your entire future. You just need to decide the next step. Small actions reduce pressure and create momentum. Momentum quiets overthinking. The moment you move, your brain switches from imagination to execution. Problems become practical. Fear becomes manageable. You stop asking endless what ifs and start responding to what is. Overthinking keeps you in your head. Action puts you back in your body. It grounds you in the present moment where things can actually change. You don't need more time. You need a decision. Decide to act before your thoughts spiral. Decide to trust yourself enough to figure things out as you go. Thinking has its place, but living happens in action. And the faster you move from thought to action, the sooner fear loses its grip and progress begins. Expand 600 to 600 words. At some point, you have to accept a truth that's both uncomfortable and incredibly freeing. No one is coming to rescue you. There is no perfect moment arriving with a sign that says, now you're ready. There's no surge of confidence that suddenly removes fear. The change you're waiting for begins the moment you decide to act. Most people spend years hoping motivation will show up first. They wait to feel inspired, energized, or certain. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes based on mood, sleep, stress, and circumstances. Action, on the other hand, creates motivation. Once you start moving, momentum builds. And momentum changes everything. The idea that your life will change in one dramatic moment is comforting, but it's not true. Real transformation happens through small, consistent choices. One decision to speak up. One step taken before you feel ready. One habit practiced daily. These moments don't look impressive in isolation, but over time, they completely alter your direction. Choosing action doesn't mean you're fearless. It means you're willing. Willing to feel uncomfortable, willing to learn as you go, willing to trust yourself enough to handle whatever happens next. That willingness is what separates people who change from people who stay stuck. Every time you take action, you strengthen your sense of agency. The belief that your choices matter. That belief is powerful. It shifts how you see challenges. Instead of feeling helpless, you feel capable. Instead of waiting, you initiate. And once you experience that shift, you don't want to go back. Your environment won't magically NGE before you do. Opportunities don't appear for people who are waiting. They appear for people who are moving. Action makes you visible. It puts you in the path of new ideas, people, and possibilities you could never access by staying still. There will never be a moment when fear completely disappears, but fear doesn't need to disappear for you to move forward. It just needs to stop being in charge. You can act with fear in the background. You can build a life with discomfort as a companion rather than an obstacle. The future you want isn't built in one bold leap. It's built in hundreds of small decisions to show up even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or uncertain. Each action is a vote for the person you're becoming. The moment you choose action, you stop waiting for permission from others or from yourself. You stop outsourcing your power to circumstances. You take responsibility, and with it comes freedom. Your life changes not when conditions improve, but when you decide to move anyway. That decision is always available to you. Right now,